Well, good morning, everybody, again. My name's Gene. I'm part of the team here at Restore. And would you make welcome my friend and yours? If he's not your friend yet, he will be. Joel Lederman, would you make him welcome? So in typical Sunday morning fashion, one of us would be up here preaching. And we would be communicating with you as is more traditional in the church setting, but I love these weekends where we get to do something that's a bit more out of the box. And this morning, so we've been into 6 weeks of being in a series called Fresh Fruit. We have been talking about the fruit of the Spirit and how do we incorporate that into our day-to-day lives. And this weekend, we're pausing that, and we're going to hear from one perspective, how do we incorporate love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? How do we do those things in our lives? How do we incorporate those things in our lives, these attributes of the fruit of the Spirit? And so Joel would be the first to say, he is not here to say, look at me, look at what I've done, but he is here to say, look at what God has done in my life and look at the influence that I can have as a leader now because of what God has done. And so this morning, I'm excited because from day one, like when Brenda and I began talking with a few of you about what Restore Church might look like, this is what we said it would look like. This is what we purposed that it would look like. That we would be a people that would gather together, be equipped and inspired to move out of this building where maybe we're in here for an hour and a half on a Sunday morning, but we move out of this place and then we purpose to live our week as we have at least brought ourselves into this place this morning. The vibes that we give off, we never wanted that to be just about our gathering together this morning or any Sunday morning of the week. We wanted the people of Restore, because we believe that's what God calls us to. We wanted us to be a people that would move into the neighborhoods, into our workplaces, and inspire others to follow Jesus along with us. And so this is sort of the culmination, and this is not the last of these kinds of weekends, but it's one of the first. And so I'm excited to have you here. And, our media team met with Joel at his place of work. And we have a short story to tell as an introduction to where we're going this morning. Let's watch this.
I'm Joel Lederman, and this is my story. I am one of the co-founders and co-owners of Elevation Park Model Company. We started business last year in 2022 and almost coming up on a year here in March. We've grown the business now to about 45 employees and just loving life here. I'm a dad of 4 beautiful girls, husband to Anna Rose, avid golfer, love to work and love to connect with people. Park Model is a 400 square foot RV. It's a stick-built home on a frame and just a very unique product. It feels like you're in a house as opposed to a trailer. We get to rub shoulders with a lot of different people, a lot of different stories, and it's just a unique product. So I grew up in a family business, Dogwood Hills Tree Farm in Middlebury, working in the dirt, playing with my hands and equipment. My biggest influence in business was my father. Just how he treated others, how he treated his crew, and I think just made everybody feel like they were a part of things. That was a big influence to me. So often in our industry, people are viewed as a number, and it's next man up, use them and lose them, and we wanted to do something different. We want a different culture where people feel valued and people feel like they have a say. Also create a space where they love coming to work every day. And I know it's overused, but a family atmosphere, a family dynamic. Here at Elevation, we know we have a lot of people with experience, and once we started and built that core group of individuals, now our mindset shifted. We are very big on hiring off of character and responsibility and just classy individuals, as opposed to what's your experience in the RV industry. So much of what we do is learned. It's very easily trainable. And so my partner Brent and I were looking at people with a new set of eyes, maybe not necessarily coming from the RV industry, but a different way of doing things and just a fresh perspective. And I think when you can build that kind of energy and when you have people who are excited about a new venture, that's where it's rewarding. People now are stepping back and taking a look and saying, hey, would I be happy with this if it was mine? And the reward we've seen on the back end of that is just phenomenal. Having a family when you're starting a business is definitely one of the rough side effects. And I think if you're honest with yourself, you have to carve out that time and make things a priority. I grew up, and it's like, I took pride in saying, hey, I worked 70 or 80 hours this week. Work was my identity. My parents thankfully taught me a work ethic and taught me the grind. And so I think too often I hang my hat on that. And there's some hard times, Dad, why are you going to be gone? Why are you leaving again this weekend? But doing little things like finding a day a week when I can take my kids to school, maybe take them to a show every now and then when you're on the road. But it's tough. It's tough on your marriage. It's tough on your parenting. You come home from work and you're drained, and so it's often difficult to just shut off, and not answer that email or answer that call. And I'm bad at it. I'm hoping to be better every day, but do I wish I could just leave the office and go play golf every day? Yes, but I've got a beautiful family, and when you get home and you hit the door and you see them come running for you, that makes it much easier to just devote that time and zone out and give them the time that they're craving. I struggle with that a lot. I find my worth in building this company and working those long weeks too often. In business, looking at everything we do with a kingdom lens has really transformed a lot of our decision making. So many times you get into business and you're worried about that bottom dollar. You're worried about, hey, we're here to make money. But when you come at a kingdom lens and generosity is at your core and treatment of others is at your core, I think it actually does the opposite effect of that, where traditional business mindset is, hey, we can't make decisions based on that because we have to be worried about our bottom line. I think one thing that's transformed me being in this industry is realizing that people are people. And, there's no black and white lines here. I mean, people have their stuff. We all do. And so finding a faith balance to lead this group, but also a acceptance and a grace balance has been huge here. And so I think this has been a great opportunity to reach people and also to witness and model what Jesus looks like on a daily basis. When we started this venture, at times it would be frustrating because we would see a door close. But what I've had to learn to live with is that when you are in God's will, it might not be the answer that you are looking for at the time, but He has your best interests at heart. So what was really rewarding is to see a door close and be frustrated with that, but sit in it. And then right behind that came an even better opportunity. Whether it was looking at buildings or hiring people or whatever it may be, it just felt like because we knew we were living in the will of God, He was guiding this ship. And it may fall apart. And if that does in this situation or any other, I think knowing that you're in His will, you have to be comfortable with whatever outcome because you know He's the one steering the ship.
Those guys make me look a lot better than I really am. That was awesome, you guys.
Cameras don't lie. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, Jesus is about to send his disciples out for the first time on their own. And he's giving them a whole list of instructions. He says, go and announce to them, so go out there and announce to them that the kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cure those with leprosy, cast out demons, give as freely as you have received. Whenever you enter a city or village, search for a worthy person and stay in his home until you leave town. When you enter the home, give it your blessing. If it turns out to be a worthy home, let your blessing stand. If it is not, take back the blessing. I have read those scriptures many times. But this morning I want to suggest that what Jesus is pointing to is that we, as his followers, can change the atmosphere of the place we step into. We carry his DNA, like we have the Spirit of God within us. When we step into a room, you've all been in a room when a leader steps in, and good or bad, the atmosphere changes because of his presence. Let me suggest to you this morning that when Joel talks about a kingdom perspective, he's talking about changing the atmosphere in the room that he steps into. You guys, we all have had this experience. What we often do, though, is we relinquish the power that is within us because we're afraid. We have past trauma. We have all these things that have informed who we are as we step into that room, and we relinquish the power that is in us to the one that is opposing us. I wonder how that settles into you right now. How does that settle into your spirit? What are the things that come to mind, like even now? Like I just want to say, Jesus, inform our thoughts right now. Jesus, would you just inform our thoughts? Those memories we have that just came up right now, the things we remember, where we have felt weak and powerless. Remind us of the strength that we have. Not on our own strength, but in the strength that comes from Almighty God. I loved that you talked about kingdom perspective. And I want to go a little bit deeper into that. Can you talk to us a little bit about, I mean, I know on the face of it, you say, we want people of character. We want people that maybe they have fresh eyes. They come into that space and they have fresh eyes about the industry, if you will. What kind of character are you looking for? Like, what is the thing that, because some people have it and other people don't have it, but it can be developed. Mm-hmm. So what is it that you're looking for?
Well, I think that's different now than it would have been a year ago. You heard me say in the video, we came into this, we knew we had to have some people with skills, but now it's more of a mindset change. I'm looking for team individuals that want to be part of something great, but also want to see that they're valued and their worth isn't just in their skill set. I was at the Retta Celebration of Life yesterday with Tim Tebow, and one thing he said really stuck out to me. We are all sons and daughters of the King. And he said, when you have that knowledge, every one of us is royalty. And so I don't care if it's the person sweeping my floors or my management. I think just seeing that everybody brings value to the team. So I don't know if there's an individual I'm looking for necessarily, but just just everybody brings something to the table. So finding that, and hasn't always been easy. You know, we've had a few that didn't work out, and that presents its own challenge. But also there, how we deal with that situation is telling to others.
Yeah, in my conversation with leaders, especially in the RV industry, the challenge of, and I guess it's true in any industry, any kind of interactions we have with people, the difficulty is when you see what is possible, but the person that you're speaking to doesn't quite have that vision yet. And I think in industry, and it's one thing to be in personal relationship, and then it is something else often when you're actually running a business and needing to make those tough decisions. And I think the key, what you just said, is that, and the scripture I read, the healing that you bring, that person may not work out in your place of business. But I hope that as you interact with them, that the Spirit of God, the power that is in you, is transforming them at some level, is already making an impact. And I believe that is what is happening when you're interacting with them. How does your kingdom perspective shift the way, or how does that inform your relationships with your customers?
That's a very good question, Gene. So one thing that comes to mind, this is not going to put us in the best light as a product, but you build hundreds of units, you're bound to have one or two that have an issue. Just this past month, we've been dealing with one down in Florida that went through a hurricane and developed some water issues. So I guess when you come up against those kind of situations, you have a choice. You know, you can think about your business, your bottom line, or you can think about, how would I want to be treated, if I was that customer? So not to pat ourselves on the back, but I'm going to build a new unit just because I'm more concerned about how we're viewed, from a kingdom standpoint, treating others if I was in that spot. So yeah, that provides many challenges, and not only customers, but dealers. RV's a rough crowd, if you're not aware, but there are good people out there. But yeah, you have the opportunity to rub shoulders with a lot of these people who, spirituality is not part of their journey. So that provides opportunities as well.
Maybe you need to have a new testing, like a water testing. I mean, that's your next build, is like creating a hurricane force wind system with rain and water. You might be able to build a couple more units though for that, right? You and Anna Rose have been attending Restore for about a year or so, and Brenda and I have got to sit with the two of you and had a lot of conversations over the course of the last 4 months or so. And when we have those conversations, I so relate to the stories, some of the conflict that you've experienced, some of the challenges you've experienced, because it is very much like Brenda and I. Like we have dealt with some of these same things. And part of it is because when you take a risk of any sort, and especially if you decide to open a business or begin something new, you often do that when you're young and you have young kids, and the challenge of juggling all of that, it takes a toll. And so, you talked a little bit about identity. I'm going to wrap a couple points together here, but you talked about identity. You talked about, it was interesting to hear you introduce yourself, because you introduced yourself as a business owner and a dad and a avid golfer. And you talked about your kids running, and meeting you. I don't have that anymore. I've got Oscar, my dog. He's about as, Brenda doesn't really do that all that much, but Oscar does. He's pretty faithful. those things all have that's a huge burden to carry. So what have you done? I know you're in process, we all are, but what would you say your top couple things are that you are really like focusing in on and saying, okay, in order for me to be successful here, what has to have priority here? That's a hard nut to crack sometimes, but I know you're processing that, so.
Yeah, it's been a rough year and a half in that aspect. You heard me say it also in there, but you have to carve out the time for what is most important. And this business has taken a lot of my time. Anna Rose and I, you asked about our marriage. I mean, we've probably put in more work this year than any of the other 15 years previous. Shameless plug, we're doing Symbis with Gene and Brenda right now, and it is fascinating. So, no, you guys have been great. So I would say it's just whatever you deem most important, you have to devote time. And when I don't have the time, it's those little moments. It's taking the girls to school. It's taking my daughters to their volleyball games. You come home late, but you tuck them into bed. I mean, that's some of my most cherished time. So, yeah, I could spend 15 hours a day at the office, but choosing to leave, and, it's kind of a joke with us. It's like, hey, I think I'm going to be home early today. That doesn't happen, so 5:36, But I think the intentionality is what's crucial.
Yeah, I would just say that, I heard Andy Stanley. I didn't hear this soon enough in my own life. I didn't hear him say this soon enough. And I didn't have anyone else say this to me. My models are, the people that I modeled kind of my life after, much like you, I was taught the grind. And many, many years after I wish I would have heard it, I heard Andy Stanley say that if I'm going to cheat anyone, it's going to be, he's a pastor, I'm going to cheat the church. If I'm going to cheat anyone, I'm going to cheat the church. My family is not going to be cheated. Now, if you know anything about leadership, and if you've stuck your neck out on some things and made some decisions, it's all good to say, I'm going to cheat the business before I cheat my family. But when we talk about priorities, that's where the rubber really hits the road, where you have to decide in that moment, what's it going to be?
So I was in a very different business before the RV industry, and my parents are actually here. You heard me talk about my dad, but he taught me a lot. And we actually grew and sold multiple businesses, and I think we got to a point where we had a big crew, and we were putting in the hours, but other things suffered. And so, that has formed a lot of this, how I want to structure this setup in my time. So, not right or wrong, it's just how I was raised up, and there's been so many positives that have helped where I am today.
So it's interesting, about 8 years ago, over the years, Brenda and I have bought a lot of trees from Dogwood Hills Tree Farm. And about 8 years ago, I remember that Joel you were still working there. And if I go back on my social media posts, one of those posts had to do with my experience with Dogwood Hills. And I knew you guys before that, but the interaction, and so I'm just saying this to say that Todd and Cindy have instilled in you the values that you have right now are there because of, you're their son.
Absolutely.
And so I just remember that my experience with you and your team was just incredible. And so I fully understand why that influence now informs what you're doing and how you're doing things today. This is the generational blessing that sometimes we don't recognize. So I don't know where Todd and Cindy are.
They're in the back there.
Todd and Cindy, thank you. You are people that have not only
Glad I'm not the only one.
I just know you guys as risk takers. Boy, I didn't know I was going to do this. I know you guys as risk takers, and I know you guys as people that are good for your word. Your ability to raise up kids that are solid in our community is a tremendous gift. And I just want, yeah. And I just know that as you see Joel up here this morning, there's got to be a lot of pride in your heart, and I want you to like fully embrace that. Like I hope you fully embrace that, because it is not about, I know you to be people that are also humble. You are, like you lead with humility. And I know the impact that you've had on the people that have come after you, not just your kids, but your employees too. And so I just want to bless you. And just know that your work is fruitful. It will continue to multiply. It is not just for today and tomorrow, but it is for a generation after this. Joel's daughters will benefit because of the impact that you've had in their lives. So I thank you. I thank you for being faithful, and I thank you for the ways that you will continue to bless the families that will come after you, your employees' families. Like this is all trickles down. Joel is impacting the people in his place different from the way you guys did. Kind of alike, with the same spirit, but he's bringing himself to the workplace now. He's bringing himself to this business. And you may look at that sometimes and go, I don't know, what's he doing? But I'm telling you, you've given him a basis from which to operate his life from, that will continue, just like he's making an impact different from yours, but it's powerful, it's good. And we just thank you. Thank you so much.
That's kind of you. This year and a half since we've been coming here, God has shown me multiple words from people. JB, Marlon, I mean, it's been undeniable. But even this morning on my way here, I was listening to Firm Foundation. Didn't know it was going to be in the set later either, but there's part in there that says he's faithful through generations. And with my family, my parents, with Anna Rose and I, and also how I'm showing our girls this. So why would he let us fail now? He won't.
But I love the fact that you said, I'm going to give this my all. And it might not all work out the way I hoped for, but he's still faithful, despite what the complete outcome is. I mean, it might not look the way you want it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think so often we have an outcome in mind that we will accept. And that's one thing that I've had to change my perspective. If it doesn't come out the way I want, that doesn't mean that it's not what he wants, or what's best for us.
One thing we wanted to make sure this morning, and I think you've already picked up on this, we don't have a pretty pink bow to put on this story. This story is in process. But I have great optimism for not just what Joel is bringing to his business, to our community, but for all of you sitting out there this morning. This is just one story out of 200 that could be told this morning. Be ready to tell your story, to be the witness that we're called to be, not out of obligation, but out of the deep generosity that God has given us, the gifts that we've been given. What's really beautiful is we have a community of people that figure out. You don't have to go on the corner. I hope you don't go on the corner with a bullhorn and start telling your story. What I really hope you do is that you, without the bullhorn, begin to, and many of you continue to engage in these relationships that matter so much. The shift and the change in people's lives comes one at a time. And sometimes we get the chance to be up here and we get to talk to a whole bunch of people at one time. But it is often, that is like the seed that is being planted. And the culmination of that seed, where that it begins to bear fruit in our lives, is in those one-on-one interactions where we get to encourage each other, to spur each other on to greater living. I'm going to pray for Joel, and then the worship team can come on up, and we'll just continue. Why don't we stand? Let's stand together. We'll pray, and we'll worship together as we close. Let me just remind us, too, that the prayer ministry team is going to be up front this morning. And man, if this word has resonated with you, if you believe that there's a few things to this morning that I really need to surrender, like I want to be that person that makes the tremendous impact in my workplace, I invite you to come up, and we just want to pray for you. Joel, I'm going to ask you to be up here to pray for people as well. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for these people. Thank you for the grace that is ours in the journey. God, for every single person in the house this morning, for those of us online, God, we know that you have given us purpose. You have given us the strength for tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Would you help us to live into that, to live into the power that resides in us? May we be the people that don't cower in the corners, but we stand up straight. We stand with courage. We stand with the knowledge that you have placed your Spirit within us, not for us to be shy about that, but to be courageous, to speak life and freedom and mercy and grace over people. May we be people that bring our influence and change the atmosphere of every room we step into. May we be the people that recognize the beauty that is in front of us, the royalty that is within each and every person we encounter. We thank you. We bless your name. Amen.